Okay, so all praises and glory be to the Most High, Ahaya. We thank Yeshua the Mashiach and Rawak the Holy Spirit for everything that they do with us, the learnings and the teachings that we're getting. We thank Father. Only Father could have, only the Holy Spirit could have put something like this together. Better yet, only the Holy Spirit on a weekly basis can put teachings like this together. It's only the Holy Spirit. It's not my brain cells, because my brain cells don't function half the time. But it's Mother. It's Mother who does all this. So all praises be to the Father. All praises be to Mother. Okay. So first and foremost, we want to go from Egypt to Greece to Rome. We're going to find out some things about the worships going from Egypt to Greece to Rome. And one group in particular is responsible for the worships from Egypt to Greece to Rome. Okay? So we're going to dissect that group. We're going to get an understanding of that group. But we're also going to get an understanding on what happened with Greece and Rome. What happened with the worships? What happened coming out of Egypt? Okay? So all praises be to the Most High, Ahaya. So we give thanks to the Father for our YouTube. Okay? Our email address, if you have questions, prayer request, a new revelation 210 at gmail.com. A new and the book Revelation, all together 2010 at gmail.com. Our services we have every Shabbat. We try to start about 3 p.m. for our live stream audience. Day 7 at night, because we know that it goes from night to day. So day 7 at night, we have our teachings at 8 o'clock. Last night we went street preaching. Next week we'll be street preaching. After that, we'll see how it goes. But we have our services somewhere about 8 o'clock. When we're live streaming for the street preachings, it's going to be about 6:30 Arizona time. Okay. All right. So next week, we're possibly going to have either why do we fight each other? Okay. We're possibly going to have that, or the deception of Christianity. So we're going to have one of those teachings next week, if the Most High allows it. Mother can come in and say, okay, no, you're not going to do that. My people need to hear this. And we're going to go with this. We're not going to go on what Elder wants to teach. Okay? So, we're going to start this off in Exodus, the first chapter. From Egypt to Greece to Rome. Okay? We're going to start in Exodus, the first chapter. Okay? All right. And I'm going to show you something in Exodus, the first chapter. And I'm going to show you something when we get to Ezekiel. And then Revelation. There's something very interesting that the Bible is putting forth. All right? So let's read Exodus chapter 1. We're going to start at verse 1 and we're going to go through to possibly 14. Let's read it.
Exodus chapter 1, verse 1. Now these are the name of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob.
All right, so these are the names of the people who came into Egypt. Every man and his household. Right? Let's read verse 2.
Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher.
All right, so those are the 12. They came into Egypt. They sojourned in Egypt. All right, verse 5.
And all the souls that came out of the lions of Jacob, the loins of Jacob, were 70 souls. for Joseph was in Egypt already.
All right.
And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation.
So all that generation died. If you go to the book of Jasher, it gives a detailed account on each one of the 12 tribes, each one of the patriarchs of the 12 and their death. Okay? The book of Jasher gives a detailed account on when they died and how old were they when they passed away. Right? Verse 7.
And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them.
All right, so the children of Israel started to be fruitful and multiply, just like Abraham was given that commandment, just like Adam was given that commandment. Be fruitful and multiply. Abraham was told that his seed would be like the sands of the shore. That's a lot of multiplying. You got a question?
I was just wondering where in Jasher that was.
It's various. Okay? Verse 8.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
So this new king did not, when it says it knew not Joseph, it knew not the covenant that was given and established with Joseph. He did not know this. Okay? Go ahead.
And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
He said they are more and they are mightier than us. All right? Okay, we were more and mightier. There were 12 patriarchs, and from those 12 patriarchs, we outgrew Egypt. Okay? We really weren't we were in Goshen. Okay? And we outgrew Egypt to the point where we were overrunning Egypt. Right? Go ahead.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass, that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
So they said, let us deal with these people, because you know what? If they sit up here and they join the Canaanites, or if they sit up there and join the Libyans, if they join those people, then we're in trouble. Egypt forefather was Mizraim. Okay? So it was like, wait a minute. If these children of Israel continue to grow, look how strong they are. Read Jasher on how we work. If you look in the book of Jasher, it'll tell you how fast Naphtali was. It'll tell you the might of Judah. Okay? Understand that these so-called superheroes today, that's how our forefathers were operating. They didn't need any mirrors or any, strings to boost them up. They were operating like that, right?
Is it like Superman and Batman and...
Yeah, all that stuff. Come on, verse 11.
Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
Pithom and Ramses. Those cities were created by us. Those cities were built by us. Okay? So they set taskmasters over them, right? All right, let's read.
But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Oh, there. We're in affliction now. And yet and still, we're continually having child after child after child. We're in captivity now. So the same thing that's going on in Egypt back then is the same thing that's going on now. The more they afflict us, we don't have nothing else to do. We're poor. So the only other thing to do is to do that. And there's a lot of that going on. Okay? So the more they afflicted them, the more they grew, because the more they afflicted them, the more they had to come together and comfort each other. All right, go ahead.
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
13.
And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
It got harder and harder. Go ahead.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar, and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor.
It was with rigor. They were basically, every time that they would increase, they see the people increasing, they put more taskmasters over them in hopes to keep them isolated, keep them bonded up. Okay? It would be like your eugenics program today. The more they got bigger and bigger and bigger, the harder the work and the labor was, because they thought in their mind, if we set taskmasters and we treat them unfairly, then they won't go and do the do. But we kept doing the do. All right? So when we were in Egypt, we had a hard life. Okay, bondage, slavery. We had to serve. We had to live and serve under Egypt. But we also had to live and serve, and that included their gods also. We had to serve their gods also. All right, so we were in Egypt, and yes, we had the Father, but it's kind of like us now. Christianity, Muslims. Okay, we were in Egypt. We started to serve their gods, right? Let's go to Ezekiel 48. We're going to be reading Ezekiel 48. We're going to be reading verses 1 through 7. Now, mind you, in Exodus, the first chapter, we read all 12 of the tribes. Okay? So I'm going to show you something in Ezekiel 48. And then we're going to go to Revelation. Okay? So Ezekiel 48, verse 1. Let's get it.
Ezekiel chapter 48, verse 1.
Come on.
Now these are the names of the tribes, from the north end to the coast of the way of Hethlon, as one goeth to Hamath, Hazar Enan, the border of Damascus northward to the coast of Hamath. For these are his sides east and west.
These are the sides east and west. Go ahead.
A portion for Dan.
We got Dan. Go to verse 2.
And by the border of Dan, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Asher.
Come on.
And by the border of Asher, from the east side even unto the west side, a portion for Naphtali.
So the Bible is talking about these borders, but we're going to find out what this stuff is. Verse 4.
And by the border of Naphtali, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Manasseh. And by the border of Manasseh, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Ephraim.
Go ahead.
And by the border of Ephraim, from the east side even unto the west side, a portion for Reuben. And by the border of Reuben, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Judah.
Verse 8.
And by the border of Judah, from the east side unto the west side, shall be the offering which ye shall offer of 25,000 reeds in breadth, and in length as one of the other parts, from the east side unto the west side. And the sanctuary shall be in the midst of it.
All right, so if you understand what's being said, well, I'm going to show you in a minute, all right? But you see these borders, right? Now, there's two tribes or people that are omitted from these borders. One is Levi. Now, let me explain that, because I don't want to ask and say, why would Levi omit it? Levi was omitted because Levi did not inherit land. They were the high priest. Joseph is also missing, but Joseph is from Manasseh and Ephraim. So that's the reason why there's no listing for Levi, and that's the reason why there's no listing for Joseph. But the rest of them are here, including Ephraim and Manasseh. But we're going to see something else, okay? We're going to see more. So let's go down to verse 11. We're going to stay in the same chapter, Ezekiel 48, and we're going to start reading from verse 11. And we're going to finish off in verse 21. Okay? That's Ezekiel 48, verses 11 to 21. We'll give people time. Should be there already. Right? Okay. Well, let's read it.
Ezekiel chapter 48, verse 11.
All right.
It shall be for the priests that are sanctified of the sons of Zadok, which have kept my charge, which went not astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray.
Come on.
And this oblation of the land that is offered shall be unto them a thing most holy by the border of the Levites.
Now I'm going to show you later on about the Levites going astray. I'm going to give you a perfect example on how they went astray. Let's read.
And over against the border of the priest, the Levites shall have 25,000 in length and 10,000 in breadth. All the length shall be 25,000, and the breadth 10,000. And they shall not sell of it, neither exchange, nor alienate the first fruits of the land, for it is holy unto the Most High. And 5,000 that are left in the breadth over against the 25,000 shall be a profane place for the city, for dwelling and for suburbs. And the city shall be in the midst thereof.
All right, verse 16.
And these shall be the measures thereof. The north side 4,000 and 5,500, Salakia. And the south side 4,500. And on the east side 4,500. And the west side 4,500.
All right. Very, it's even, right? So far. Let's read.
And the suburbs of the city shall be toward the north 250, and toward the south 250, and toward the east 250, and toward the west 250.
Go ahead.
And the residue in the length over against the oblation of the holy portion shall be 10,000 eastward and 10,000 westward, and it shall be over against the oblation of the holy portion, and the increase thereof shall be for food unto them that serve the city. And they that serve the city shall serve it out of all the tribes of Israel.
All of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? Verse 20.
All the oblation shall be 25,000 by 25,000. Ye shall offer the holy oblation foursquare with the possession of the city.
Come on, verse 21.
And the residue shall be for the prince.
The residue shall be for the prince. Go ahead.
On the one side and on the other of the holy oblation. And of the possession of the city over against the 25,000 of the oblation toward the east border, and westward over against the 25,000 toward the west border. Salakia. Over against the portion for the prince. And it shall be the holy oblation, and the sanctuary of the house shall be in the midst thereof.
Okay. All right. Now, let me ask you a question.
Oh.
What did we just read?
I was just going to ask you that because I'm thinking I'm hearing something.
What did we just read? We read a description of what?
So,
We read a description of what? The New Jerusalem.
when I used to read this in Christianity, I thought this already happened.
Oh, the
No.
holy city.
No. We just read a description of the New Jerusalem, right?
Yes.
Now, I want you to keep in mind, we just read Exodus chapter 1, right? And we read all 12 tribes, correct?
Right.
Now, Ezekiel 48, we just read about the description of the New Jerusalem. And there were gates into the city of the New Jerusalem, and there were 12 tribes, correct? And the only ones that were omitted were Levi and Joseph, right? Right? Okay.
Wait.
Hold on. Let's get Ezekiel chapter 48. We're going to stay in this. We're going to stay in this chapter. We're going to finish it off. Ezekiel 48 verses 31 to 35. Okay. Ezekiel 48 verses 31 to 35. Remember, we're talking about the worships from Egypt to Greece to Rome. It has to start in Egypt. Okay? But let's read Ezekiel chapter 48 verses 31 to 35. We're not only going to teach about Egypt, Greece to Rome, but we're also going to debunk some things that have been taught. And we've already did it just by doing this.
That's what I'm saying.
So let's continue. Verse 31 and read.
And the gates of the city shall be after the names of the tribes of Israel.
Go ahead.
3 gates northward.
Who are the 3 gates?
1 gate of Reuben.
Come on.
1 gate of Judah. and one gate of Levi.
All right, so there's Levi. Don't get hung up on Levi. All right, verse 32.
And at the east side 4,500 and 3 gates, and one gate of Joseph,
One gate of Joseph. Go ahead.
one gate of Benjamin,
Come on.
one gate of Dan.
One gate of Dan. Right. Verse 33.
And at the south side 4,500 measures and 3 gates, one gate of Simeon, one gate of Issachar, one gate of Zebulun.
Go ahead.
At the west side 4,500 with their 3 gates, one gate of Gad, one gate of Asher, one gate of Naphtali.
Verse 35.
It was round about 18,000 measures, and the name of the city from that day shall be, the Most High is there.
Most High is there.
So it's
Now,
going to change from the New Jerusalem to the Most High.
no, it's not. It's going to change from the New Jerusalem. We don't know what it's going to be. All right. So, but I want to get a focus on the gates, right? Now, the gates did not include Ephraim and Manasseh, right?
Right?
Okay. Now, I'm not omitting Ephraim and Manasseh. Let's get an understanding. I'm going somewhere with this, and you have to bear with me on this one. All right? So while the angels were sealing the elect, the Gentiles, they're saying it don't matter. Father right now is sealing the elect, the 144. And that 144, they're going to govern, right? So Father is getting those men prepared now. Okay? He's getting them prepared now. Now, we just read a description of what we're calling the New Jerusalem right now. Okay? We're just getting an idea of the New Jerusalem. But there's something amiss with this. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 7, verse 1 through 9. Revelation chapter 7, verse 1 through 9. Give people a second to get there. Okay, let's read.
Revelation chapter 7 verse 1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree.
Okay, so what's about to happen on this planet, on this earth, because it's not a planet, I apologize. What's happening on this earth right now is the 4 winds are being held. But when those 4 winds are released, verse 2.
And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea.
To whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. Verse 3.
Saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees,
Come on.
till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads.
Don't do anything until we have sealed these 144,000 men. These 144,000. So everything is being held at bay right now until Father seals the 144. Right? Verse 4.
And I heard the number of them which were sealed. And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel.
All the tribes of the children of Israel. So let's see this 144 and who they are. Read.
Of the tribe of Judah.
Judah, the so-called Negroes, the so-called Black Americans or Afro-Americans, or whatever bywords you want to call them, right? Go ahead.
Were sealed 12,000 of the tribe of Reuben. Were sealed 12,000.
Reuben. Mostly Reuben is the Aborigines of Australia, and you got some Reuben, which are the Seminole Indians. Okay, go ahead.
Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000.
Gad, so-called Native American Indian, right? Of them, there's going to be 12,000, right? Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000.
Asher, the Brazilians, okay? Of them are going to be sealed 12,000. Also, the Colombians and Uruguay and Argentina, those are Asher. Bible says that his feet dipped in oil. In South America is a huge oil resource. All right, so 12,000 of them are going to be sealed. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Nephthalim were sealed 12,000.
Naphtali, right? Naphtali. Bible says Nephthalim. Naphtali. We know that those are our brothers, the Hawaiians, the Samoan, Fiji Islands, the South Seas. All right, so 12,000 of them are going to be sealed. Let's finish this verse. Go ahead. We have a question. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000.
And Manassas, the so-called Cubans, 12,000 of them are going to be raised up, and they're going to be sealed. What's your question?
You kind of went too fast. I had to go get a Bible, but when you was at Ezekiel 48, right?
Yeah.
And when you were reading, you were giving out numbers.
Okay.
Right? Was these measurements?
Those are measurements according to what the New Jerusalem is going to, the size of the New Jerusalem.
And it was the measurement for each tribe?
No, it wasn't. It was the size. It was the measurement per each side for the city.
Oh, for the city. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Where we at? Chapter and verse.
Revelation chapter 7, verse 7.
Let's get it.
Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000.
Tribe of Simeon, the so-called Dominicans from the Dominican Republic. 12,000 of them are going to be sealed up. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000.
Levi, right? The so-called Haitians. Levi and Simeon, brothers in destruction. They're going to be sealed. There's going to be 12,000 of those spiritual brothers that are going to be sealed. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000.
Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. 12,000 of those brothers are going to be sealed. Right? Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000.
Zebulun, the tribe of Zebulun, the so-called Panamanians and Guatemalans. They are going to be sealed up. 12,000 of them are going to be sealed up, right? Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000.
Joseph, we already know that that's Ephraim and that's Manasseh. That's Ephraim. That's really Ephraim. Sorry about that. That's Ephraim, so-called Puerto Ricans. 12,000 of them are going to be sealed up. Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000.
Benjamin, the so-called Jamaicans and the Trinidadians, all of those in that area. 12,000 of them are going to be sealed up, right? Verse 9.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues.
Hold there. The Gentiles, right? No man can number. Now the Gentiles, they're going to be involved in this. Read.
Stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands.
Now, we read through Exodus, the first chapter. All 12 tribes were listed. We read through Ezekiel, the 48th chapter. Okay? All tribes were listed. We go through Revelation, the 7th chapter. Not all tribes were listed.
No.
Who wasn't listed?
Dan.
Dan, right? So what does that lead us to believe? Does that lead us to believe that Dan will not make it to the kingdom?
No.
Does it?
No.
So Dan will not make it to the kingdom.
They will.
They will.
They will. Why will Dan make it to the kingdom?
Because in Exodus we read the where they were going to be like on the eastward or northward.
That wasn't in Exodus.
Ezekiel.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Ezekiel 11 to 21, when we talked about the parameters where each of the 12 tribes was set at, they were set. I don't know.
So let me generalize this, all right? Dan will not receive leadership.
Yeah.
That's what the 144 was. But they will make it.
Isn't it a scripture that
They'll make it, but they won't make it as leaders. That's why they have a gate in the New Jerusalem. But we need to know who Dan is. So from Egypt to Greece to Rome. So we're going to get an understanding of Dan. All right? Because they're a key figure in the worships from Egypt to Greece to Rome. Dan is a key figure, but you won't be able to figure this out if you don't know what Dan's responsibility was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to Exodus chapter 38.
Exodus 38.
Okay. Let's get to get an understanding on how did these gods get from Egypt to Greece to Rome, and let's get an understanding on why Dan was so ostracized. Let's get an understanding also, because a lot of people teach that, you know what, Dan is not going to make it. The tribe of Dan is not going to make it. But I'm going to show you where the tribe of Dan will make it, but they will make it. I'm not going to go there. All right, Exodus chapter 38. We're going to read verses 21 and 24. Okay? Exodus 38, 21, 24. Let's read it.
Exodus chapter 38, verse 21.
Come on.
This is the sum of the tabernacle, even of the tabernacle of the testimony, as it was counted according to the commandment of Moses, for the service of the Levites, by the hand of Ithamar, son to Aaron the priest.
Okay. Verse 22.
And Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Most High commanded Moses.
All right, verse 23. This is what Dan was supposed to do, and I want you to hold this for understanding later. Read.
And with him was Aholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver, and a cunning workman.
They were engravers and they were workmen. Go ahead.
And an embroiderer in blue, and in purple, and in scarlet, and fine linen.
They were embroiderers. All right. So they were engravers and they were embroiderers. I want you to hold that because you're going to get an understanding later. Verse 24.
All the gold that was occupied for the work in all the work of the holy place, even the gold of the offering, was 29 talents, and 730 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary.
So we're going to get an understanding on Dan. We're going to actually do two teachings in one right now. We're going to get an understanding of Dan, but we're also going to get an understanding on the worships and everything that happened from Egypt to Greece to Rome. And we're going to understand what happened in Greece, especially what happened in Greece. Okay? We're going to get an understanding of that also. So we're actually going to have really two teachings in one. So Dan was to assist Judah. Now I want you to think of that for a second, because when we get, I want you to think of that for a second. All right? Keep that in the back of your mind. In fact, write a little note. Dan was to assist Judah. And I want you to put a little something, check mark by it, because we're going to go back to that in a little while. They were embroiderers and engravers. Okay, so we know that Judah dealt with carpentry. Judah, they were the carpenters. Dan was supposed to be the embroiderers. They were supposed to be the ones that got the curtains going, and the engravers, the whatever it is that they were supposed to engrave. You know, they were supposed to take care of all that. So the sanctuary was given to Judah and for Dan to build. And they needed to build it specifically on how the Most High told them to build it. So that, I think I got that coming up. The temple was the same in heaven. So the Most High can communicate with his people on earth. So the northern kingdom started to fall, right? And Dan decided to move to a higher position. Now remember, they were in Egypt, right? So some of them that came out of Egypt were worshiping the Egyptian gods. Remember that too. Let's go to Judges 5:17. And we're going to see Judges 5:17 a few times. So you don't have to write it down 2 and 3 times, because we're going to go to this scripture I think 2 or 3 times.
Okay, so we're going to Judges.
Yes, Judges chapter 5, verse 17. Let's give people a second to get there. If you have any questions on the chat, feel free to ask your questions on the chat and we will answer them. All right? But Judges 5:17. Let's read that.
Judges chapter 5 verse 17. Gilead abode beyond Jordan. And why did Dan remain in ships?
Why did Dan remain in ships? That's very, very key for what we're going to talk about later. Go ahead.
Asher continued on the seashore and abode in his breeches.
All right. So pass this around. I want you all to see this map. This is a map of the 12 tribes and where they were given their assignments. And I want you to look at Dan and I want you to look at Ephraim, because it's going to be very key for what we're going to talk about next. Also, if you look at Dan, and those of you who are on live stream, if you Google 12 tribes chart of Israel, the land, you'll see what I'm talking about. Dan was right on the Mediterranean Sea coast. Ephraim is right next to him. Okay? It's very key that we get an understanding of this because of what we're going to bring forth next. Okay, so everybody get that passed around before I get to the next scripture. So I want you to look at Dan, and you see where Dan is. Okay? And they're on the coast. And then right next to them, you see Ephraim. Okay? So Dan operated outside of the borders. All right? Their land was not good enough for them. So they operated outside, but where did Dan go in their ships? Judges 5:17 said they were in ships, but where did they go? And where did the worships they have go?
You said Dan and who else?
Ephraim. Where did the worships they have go? So before we continue with Dan, we're going to get some history on Dan. All right?
This is where they should have been.
Let's get Genesis 30. We're going to be reading Genesis chapter 30, verse 1 through 6. So let's get a little history lesson on Dan. So now you've probably already understood Dan is a key figure in all this. But we have to identify who Dan is today, number one. And by identifying who Dan is today, we find out on how the worships got that way. Okay? Now remember, the Greek Empire didn't start till way later. You still had, after Egypt, you had the Philistines. After the Philistines, you had the Assyrians. After the Assyrians, you had Babylon. After Babylon, you had Persia, the Medo-Persians. And then after the Medo-Persians, then comes Greece. So there had to be something in between those years for Greece. Greece wasn't a world power when Egypt was a world power. Greece wasn't a world power when Philistine was a world power. And so on and so on. So let's get a history of Dan real quick. Let's go to Judges chapter 30, verses 1 through 6. And this will all tie together eventually. Let's read.
Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die.
What's key in verse number 1 is what we talked about earlier. Rachel envied her sister. So whatever whatever, even though Rachel is not the maternal mother of Dan, still the attributes of Dan, envy, came through Dan. So see, even though Rachel wasn't the birth mother of Dan, right? Bilhah was. Dan still got the attributes from Rachel. We're going to show you that. Let's go to verse 2. Read.
And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in the Most High's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her.
Verse 4.
And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. And Jacob went in unto her. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, The Most High hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan.
Called she his name Dan. Okay? Now, Rachel did not birth Dan. So how did Dan get the attribute of envy from Rachel?
Birds of a feather flock together. Well, because she raised him, her influence. He did what he saw.
Okay? When people are desperate, they'll go through all kinds of measures to get what they want. This is dangerous. And it's dangerous for the future generations. It's very dangerous for the future generations. You think that you're getting what you want now. And 4 generations later, it's destroying those people. Do they deserve that?
No.
Let's go to Genesis 49. And we're going to get an understanding on Dan. Okay? And not putting it all on Dan on all this pagan worships, but they had an influence on this. And I'm going to show you. All right, Genesis chapter 49, verses 16 and 17. We're going to talk about Dan, right? This is the prophecy. You know what? Do Genesis 49 and 1. This is the prophecy that Jacob was saying on his deathbed. So let's read Genesis 49 and 1 and then go to 16.
Genesis chapter 49, verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Verse 16. Dan shall judge his people.
Hold there. He said, Dan shall. Shall. That's very, very key. Read.
As one of the tribes of Israel.
As one of the tribes of Israel. As one. So when you're reading Bible prophecy, you can't just go reading and, oh, he's going to judge people. That's not what Jacob said. He said they're going to try to judge people as one of the 12 tribes. He's excluding them from the 12. If you look at the scripture, he's excluding them. But we're going to show you even more proof later. Read verse 17, and let's get precept for 17. Read verse 17.
Dan shall be a serpent by the way.
A serpent by the way, go ahead.
An adder in the path.
Go ahead.
That biteth the horse heels.
Come on.
So that his rider shall fall backward.
Now, serpent. What's a serpent?
A deceiver.
What's a serpent?
A snake.
What's a serpent?
The
Satan.
devil.
Satan, right?
God.
And an adder, of course, is one of the most poisonous snakes there is, that biteth the horse heels. So let's get an understanding with this. Let's get a precept, right? So Dan was not in a position to judge. The key word in the scripture is as. The serpent operates under the spirit of Satan. So the rider falls off the horse, so Dan was used as a stumbling block. For who? I'm going to show you that later. Eventually, Dan will be used by the Gentile nations. We're going to show you that later. But who was on the horse? Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 10. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verses 7 and 8. Okay? And let's get an understanding of what Jacob was saying. Let's read.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 7.
Come on.
I have seen serpents upon horses.
He said, I have seen servants upon horses. Right? Go ahead.
And princes walking as servants upon the earth.
Now, this is backwards. If you understand what Solomon was saying, Solomon is saying that servants, first of all, should not be on horses. Princes should be on horses. The servants would always walk. Princes is Israel. Doesn't Israel mean prince?
Yes.
So the person who is on the horse is Israel. Verse 8.
You mean on the horse or walking?
No, on the horse. Okay, let me repeat what I just said. When princes are around, when they're walking, they're on a horse. The servants are walking. Solomon, when he put this prophecy through, he was talking about Dan, that the servants were upon horses. Dan is upon the horse, and Israel is walking. Princes. You following me? You got to follow me in order to understand what's going on. Verse 8.
He that diggeth a pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh an hedge, a serpent shall bite him.
Now who?
A serpent shall bite him.
A serpent shall bite him. So if we go back to Genesis 49:17, Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heel. If a snake bites a horse heel and you're riding on it, what's going to happen? You're going to fall. Of course, because the rest of the scripture says, so that his rider shall fall backward. So Dan is that serpent, Satan, and I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that a little later. That biteth the horse's heel. Whose heel did Dan bite? I'm going to show you that. So that the rider shall fall backward. So we're going to get an understanding of this. Egypt, Greece, Rome. Okay? So, this backwards Israel means prince. So the princes would ride on the horse and the servants would walk on the ground. Dan, serpent bit Israel. Now Dan are trying to be the leaders. Remember in Revelation, the 7th chapter, where the 144 excluded Dan. So Dan has been fighting to be leaders ever since. But what happened to Dan that they were excluded from the 144? I'm going to show you that also. Right? Now, Bible says, Yeshua said that we're not supposed to go into Samaria. Right? Yeshua said, do not go into Samaria, correct? All right. Dan took it further. Because Dan wanted to be the leaders. It's always been where you don't go into other lands. Yeshua just wasn't saying that for that time. That was a staple. You were not supposed to go to the land of the heathens. Because their influence would come on you. But Dan didn't regard that. Let's go to Judges, and we're going to be reading the entire 18th chapter. Now, I need you to stay with me. Because Judges 18 is very key for what we're going to continue to talk about. If you miss something in Judges 18, you're going to miss everything. All right, we're going to read Judges, the 18th chapter, the entire chapter. All right? And we're going to break this thing down. And I'm going to show you something about Dan and why they're not in the 144. All right, let's read. Judges, go ahead.
Judges chapter 18, verse 1.
Come on.
In those days there was no king in Israel.
Okay, in those days, we all know that in the time of Judges, there were no kings in Israel. All right, go ahead.
And in those days the tribe of the Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in.
Go ahead.
For unto that day all their inheritance had not fallen unto them among the tribes of Israel.
That day the inheritance had not fallen unto them. All right. So they just had a piece of land. That was it. Verse 2.
And the children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their coast, men of valor, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land.
What land were they going to spy out? I'm going to show you that later. Read.
And to search it. And they said unto them, Go, search the land. Who, when they came to Mount Ephraim,
they came to Mount Ephraim. Go ahead.
To the house of Micah.
Go ahead.
They lodged there.
Now, you have to understand and know who is Micah. And Micah is not the prophet. Micah was not the prophet. When you go to your Strong's Concordance, it'll tell you who Micah was. Micah was a high priest of Levi. He was a priest of Levi, but if you understand and know your Bible, you understand and know that each tribe had a high priest. And Micah was the high priest over the tribe of Ephraim. Remember, I showed you that map. What was next to Dan? Ephraim. All right? So we got an understanding there, right? All right. Read verse 3.
When they were by the house of Micah, they knew the voice of the young man the Levite, and they turned in thither, and said unto him, Who brought thee hither? And what makest thou in this place? And what hast thou here? And he said unto them, Thus and thus dealeth Micah with me, and hath hired me, and I am his priest.
Remember yesterday when we were street preaching, we had a scripture on hired priest. Right? Micah was from Levi, but he was priest over Ephraim. Okay? Remember yesterday we talked about hired priest, right? Let's go to verse 5.
And they said unto him, As counsel, we pray thee of the Most High, that we may know whether our way which we go shall be prosperous.
So these 5 spies, the 5 Danites, are talking to Micah, and it's like, give us counsel because we need to know what we need to do. Okay? Verse 6.
And the priest said unto them, Go in peace, before the Most High is your way wherein ye go.
Okay? False prophecy. Because they were going to do something very destructive. All right? Verse 7.
Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless, after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure, and there was no magistrate in the land.
Hold there. So they saw the Ephraimites and how careless they were.
Yeah.
And they saw this, and they were like, wait a minute, look at this.
Yes.
And then they said, wait a minute, there's nobody ruling this land.
Yes.
There's nobody in control. There's no elder here. There's no judge here. There's no high priest. I mean, we got the high priest in our pocket. There's nobody here. Right? Read.
That might put them to shame in anything, and they were far from the Zidonians, and had no business with any man.
Verse 8.
And they came unto their brethren to Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brethren said unto them, What say ye?
He said, what say ye? What did you see about that land which is beautiful? Verse 9.
And they said, Arise, that we may go up against them.
Rise, that we may go up against them. Go ahead.
For we have seen the land.
Come on.
And behold, it is very good.
Uh-huh.
And are ye still? Be not slothful to go, and to enter to possess the land.
So these spies said, you know what? We're gonna take this land.
And the spies
We're
were
gonna-
Danites.
Right. We're gonna take this land. See, Dan had their land, but see, they did a few things that the Most High didn't like.
They land was
Dan
big.
had small land, but but Benjamin had even smaller land. Their land was even smaller. So Dan decided, you know what? Ephraim, this land is good. We're gonna get it. Right? Verse 10.
When ye go, ye shall come unto a people secure, and to a large land.
So
For
when it says a people secure, that doesn't mean that they were fortified. That means that these people are, you know how in the 50s when people would go to sleep and leave their doors unlocked? That's what he's talking about. Read.
For the Most High hath given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth. And there went from thence of the family of the Danites, out of Zorah and out of Eshtaol, 600 men appointed with weapons and of war.
600 Danites, weapons of war. All right? And what we're going to learn later, 600 Danites, that's something else. There's a smaller number of Danites that did some real bad destruction. I'm going to show you that also. Verse 12.
And they went up and pitched in Kirjath Jearim in Judah. Wherefore they called that place Mahane Dan. Unto this day, behold, it is behind Kirjath Jearim.
Go ahead, 13.
And they passed thence unto Mount Ephraim, and came unto the house of Micah.
They came to the house of Micah, right? Verse 14.
Then answered the 5 men that went to spy out the country of Laish, and said unto their brethren, Do ye know that there is in these houses an ephod?
An ephod? What's an ephod? It's a holy garment, right? Go ahead.
And teraphim.
A teraphim. What is that? A teraphim is called your gold, your graven images, your house idols. Go ahead.
And a graven image, and a molten image. Now therefore consider what ye have to do. And
now that's what we call modern day bribery. Imagine a Levite having these. First he had an ephod. Okay, he should have one. But he had house gods, house idols, graven images, and molten images in his house.
Micah had this.
Yes, Micah, the high priest of Ephraim. They say, now consider what you have to do right now. Let's go, verse 15.
And they turned thitherward, and came to the house of the young man the Levite, even unto the house of Micah, and saluted him.
Verse 16.
And the 600 men appointed with their weapons of war, which were of the children of Dan, stood by the entering of the gate.
Stood by the gate. Verse 17.
And the 5 men that went to spy out the land went up, and came in thither, and took the graven image.
They took the graven image. Go ahead.
And the ephod.
And the ephod.
And the teraphim.
And the teraphim.
And the molten image.
And the molten image. Go ahead.
And the priest stood in the entering of the gate with the 600 men that were appointed with weapons of war.
Verse 18.
And these went into Micah's house, and fetched the carved image, the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image. Then said the priest unto them, What do ye?
Why are you doing this to me? The high priest of Ephraim. Why are you doing this to me? When they came into Micah's house and took the carven image and the graven image and the ephod, house gods, he said, what are you doing? They answered, be quiet. Don't say a word. Come with us and be our father and our priest. Isn't it better for you to serve multiple tribes than just one tribe? Let's see that. Let's go to verse 19.
And they said unto him, Hold thy peace, lay thine hand upon thy mouth, and go with us, and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for thee to be a priest unto the house of one man, or that thou be a priest unto a tribe and a family in Israel?
He said, they told this high priest, hey, You don't want to be just tribe of Ephraim. You don't want to just be their high priest. Don't you want to be over all of Israel? So see, Dan's agenda was not just for Ephraim. It was for the entire 12. It was for the entire landmass. All of Israel. And they knew he could be bought. This is what you call, they call it blackmail. It's a shakedown, a Bible shakedown right in front of our eyes. Verse 20.
And the priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod and the teraphim and the graven image and went in the midst of the people.
Go ahead.
So they turned and departed and put the little ones and the cattle and the carriage before them.
All right, verse 22.
And when they were a good way from the house of Micah, the men that were in the houses near to Micah's house were gathered together and overtook the children of Dan.
Now, hold on a minute. Wait a minute. They were a good way from the house of Micah. The men that were in the houses near Micah's house were gathered together, and these men overtook the children of Dan. Let's go to the Strong's Concordance and let's look at the word overtook. And let's see what that means. Let's see what it really means. Okay, that will be your Strong's Concordance H1692. The Bach. And that means stick close, stay together, pursue closely, or cleave. So, because if you're reading the scripture, the word overtook means that somebody took you over, right? But that's not what happened. Ephraim cleaved unto the children of Dan. The high priest was the one who was involved in making Dan and Ephraim cleave together. Let's get to verse 23. Come on, let's read that.
And they cried unto the children of Dan, and they turned their faces and said unto Micah, What aileth thee, that thou comest with such a company?
So they cried, they are Ephraim, cried unto the children of Dan, because these men were there with weapons of war. Now, I want you to hold that thought in your mind real quick. 600 Danites. In fact, write it down. 600 Danites. Write that down, because that's going to be very, very important for what I'm about to show you. And why Ephraim was crying when they saw this sight of 600 Danites. Okay? Verse 20. Hold that, because I'm going to go back to that. I'm telling you to write this stuff down because I'm going to go back to it. Verse 24.
And he said, Ye have taken away my gods which I made, and the priest, and ye are gone away. And what have I more? And what is this that ye say unto me? What aileth thee?
Verse 25.
And the children of Dan said unto him, Let not thy voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows run upon thee, and thou lose thy life with the lives of thy household.
Come on.
And the children of Dan went their way. And when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back unto his house.
Turned and went back into his house. I'm not dealing with these Danites. Verse 27.
And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priests which he had, and came unto Laish, unto a people that were at quiet and secure. And they smote them with the edge of the sword.
They did what?
They smote them with the edge of the sword.
Danites smote Ephraim with the edge of the sword. Read.
And burnt the city with fire.
And they burnt the city with fire. Why? 28.
And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Zidon, and they had no business with any man. And it was in the valley that lieth by Beth-rehob. And they built a city and dwelt therein.
So Dan came in, smote Ephraim, took over their land, right? But that ain't the killing part. There's more. 29.
And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel, howbeit the name of the city was Laish at the first.
I'm going to show you in the Bible where that was an abomination to the Most High. That was a total abomination. They changed the name of the city to Dan after their father when it was Laish at the first. I'm going to get you, we're going to get a precept on that in a minute. But that was a total Father did not like that, not one bit. 30.
And the children of Dan set up the graven image.
They set up graven images. Go ahead.
And Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. And they set them up Micah's graven image, which he made all the time that the house of the Most High was in Shiloh.
There you go. There you go. Dan is not to be in leadership. Now, this ain't all Dan did. This is the beginning. So they took over the land of Ephraim. They smote these people, and then they changed the name of the city and called it after their father, which was an abomination to the Most High God. And we're going to show you that. Yes, ma'am.
So, we were talking in the scripture where in Ecclesiastes 10 and 7 about the horse and
Yep.
the person that fell, was it Ephraim? Or
No,
someone else?
I'm going to show you who fell. It wasn't Ephraim. Like I said, Dan did more than just this. So let's get a precept on Judges 18:29. Let's go to Psalms 49, verse 10 through 12. Psalms 49, 10 through 12. This is a precept for Judges 18:29. Father was not pleased with the tribe of Dan. First of all, he wasn't pleased with the tribe of Dan taking over the land of Ephraim. But to call it Dan was an abomination to Father. Let's read it.
Psalms chapter 49, verse 10. For he seeth that wise men die, likewise the fool and the brutish person perish, and leave their wealth to others. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling place to all generations.
Hold there for, finish that verse.
They call their lands after their own
They
names.
call their lands after their own names. But what is the Bible saying here? Let's think of this. Let's learn something on the way to learn something, on the way to learn something. Let's read verse 10 again.
For he seeth that wise men die,
All men die. Go ahead.
likewise the fool and the brutish person perish,
Go ahead.
and leave their wealth to others.
Read that again.
And leave their wealth to others.
Read that again.
And leave their wealth to others.
What does the world do when a person dies? They leave a will. Right? Let's read verse 11.
Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever.
That's the whole objective of leaving a will, so that you can live forever.
Their houses.
Your houses can live forever. So, is leaving a will against the Bible?
Yes.
Con.
No.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Wait, I'm confused.
Read.
And their dwelling places to all generations.
Mm-hmm.
They call their lands after their own names.
See, that's the abomination that Dan did. They took a city from Ephraim, changed the name from Laish to Dan. That was an abomination to Father. But Dan did even more. Let's go to let's read verse 12, finish this off.
Nevertheless, man being in honor abideth not, he is like the beasts that perish.
Okay, so the Bible clearly states you don't leave anything to anybody. I'm gonna leave my memorial. Okay? As we continue to get this knowledge and understanding.
Wait, I thought the brother over there read that.
Read verse 10 again.
Psalms chapter 49, verse 10.
Read it.
For he seeth that wise men die, Likewise, the
The
fool
fool, go ahead,
and the brutish person
and the
perish,
brutish person perish, go ahead,
and leave their wealth to others.
leave their wealth to others. What is that?
A will.
It's a will, right? It comes against Father. He's saying that these people are fools. Why is that? Let's quickly, why is that? Why do you think Father is saying that this is bad, that people are leaving wealth to others?
Because people fight over it.
Because what happens at a will reading?
Discord.
It causes discord. It causes wrath. It causes anger.
Jealousy.
Okay? All right, let's get off that topic. Let's get back on Egypt. Rome and Egypt, Greece, and Rome. So they set up their own city, and the Most High did not command to do this, especially against your own brethren. Dan got the idol from who? Levi. So now you see how Levi failed, because they were starting to deal with that.
Worship.
Remember, they are known. Remember, Dan is known for their art and their artistry, their embroidery. That's going to come into key later. So, my question to you is, ever wonder why there's so many captivities in the book of Judges? Have you ever read, anybody read the book of Judges?
Upon.
God.
Multiple captivities in the book of Judges, right? So now we get an understanding on why. Because who was the judges?
Dan.
Dan. I'm going to show you one judge in particular. Samson. Okay? Now, did you know that there's a riddle that Samson had? And that riddle was really to destroy Judah? Samson had a riddle, and this vision that he had was the destruction of Judah. Let's go to Judges 14. So when I said Dan did more, they did a lot more.
So Dan is a I thought he was a Benjamite. But
Samson is from the tribe of Dan.
Oh, from Dan. Okay.
Okay? All right, so let everybody get to Judges 14. And I'm going to show you that this riddle that Samson had, this riddle was the destruction of Judah. All right, we're going to read Judges 14 in its entirety.
All right.
Let's read it.
Judges chapter 14, verse 1. And Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines.
Go ahead.
And he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now, therefore, get her for me to wife.
Now that was abomination number 1, because he wasn't supposed to go to the Philistines for a woman. But Samson had a lust spirit. All right, so he was not supposed to go to the Philistines to get a wife. Verse 3.
Then his father and his mother said unto him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren?
So his father and mother said, wait a minute. Aren't there daughters among Dan who you can have? Go ahead.
Or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, Get her for me, for she pleases me well.
Go ahead.
But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Most High, that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel.
So basically he was going to fill up his lust to put revenge against the Philistines. How asinine is that? That's stupid. Okay. Verse 5.
Then went Samson down, and his father and his mother to Timnath, and came to the vineyards of Timnath, and behold, a young lion roared against him.
A young lion roared against him. Verse 6.
And the Spirit of the Most High came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done.
All right, so understand this. Samson had incredible strength.
Yes.
So he got this lion and he rent it, killed it, broke its neck like it was a baby goat.
With his bare hand.
Okay? But let's get an understanding of something on this. Is this physical or spiritual? Verse 7.
And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well.
Verse 8.
And after a time he returned to take her. And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion.
Now, hold there. Bees represent a tribe. The lion represent a tribe. Okay? I'm going to hold that. Verse 9.
And he took thereof in his hands, and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion.
This is how you understand and know. This is not physical. This is spiritual. Bees cannot produce honey in a lamb. Okay? Let's be realistic on something. A lion.
Inside the body.
Okay? Bees cannot produce honey inside of a lion.
No.
This is spiritual. This is a vision that Samson is having. The bee represents the tribe of Dan. That's their emblem. The lion represents the tribe of who?
Judah.
Read.
So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast. For so used the young men to do.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him.
All right, hold there, and let's get Deuteronomy 33:22. Let's get a precept. Okay, so now we understand and know that, okay, Dan had this vision and that the bee was going to overtake the lion. The bee represented Dan, the lion represented Judah. So let's see something in Deuteronomy 33:22. You got it?
Okay.
All right, let's read it.
Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 22.
Come on.
And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp.
Dan is what?
A lion's whelp.
A what?
A lion's whelp.
Read.
And he shall leap from Bashan.
From who?
From Bashan.
From who?
From Bashan.
You got to understand what the Bible is saying right here. A lion's whelp. When you hit something, what happens?
It yells.
It produces what?
A whelp.
It whelps up, right?
So it says.
Come on now.
Say that again.
Whelp. Or
read it
welt. Read it again. Now, whelp here, if you look at the Strong's Concordance, whelp means cub. Let's read it again. Deuteronomy 33:22.
Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 22.
Read it.
And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp.
Dan is a lion's cub. Right? This is what the Bible is saying. If you look at the Strong's for whelp, it's cub. But what about the second part? Read.
And he shall leap from Bashan.
He shall leap from Bashan. So let's get another precept. Let's go to Psalms 22:12. Now we got to know what's Bashan. Can't just read the Bible and say, wait, okay, that's what it means. No, you got to get your precepts. You got to understand. You have to know what the Bible is saying. Who is Bashan? Psalms 22:12. Okay? You got it? All right, let's read it.
Psalms chapter 22, verse 12.
Come on.
Many bulls have compassed me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round.
What are strong bulls of Bashan? We had this teaching before. What is it? Who is it? What is it? Satan himself. Those are demons. The bulls of Bashan. Remember the spirit of Bashan?
Yeah.
So, when we get back, now we get an understanding on what the Bible is saying about Samson and his vision. Okay, so we had to break it down. we had to break down the lion part. All right, that was the prophecy that was given. Deuteronomy 33 was the prophecy given by Moses. So then we had to understand what is Bashan. We get an understanding of Bashan through Psalms 22:12, where it talks about the bulls of Bashan, which is a demon. Okay. Let's get back to Judges 14, and let's read verse. Let's start at verse. I think we're at verse. We should be at verse 12. Right? Let's read that.
Judges chapter 14, verse 12. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you.
He said, I will now put forth a riddle. Go ahead.
If ye can certainly declare me within the 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 change of garments.
13.
But if ye cannot declare it me, then shall ye give me 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. And they said unto him, Put forth thy riddle that we may hear it.
Let's hear the riddle. Verse 14.
And he said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle.
All right, so he gave them a riddle on the vision that he had. Out of the eater came forth the meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. That was the bees that were in the lion that brought forth honey that he ate. Now, if somebody gave you a riddle like that, you're not going to understand what they're talking about. So this is what the Philistines did. Let's read verse 15. Go ahead.
And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire. Have ye called us to take what we have? Is it not so? Salaki.
All right. So what this prophecy, what this vision was Dan destroying Judah. I'm going to show you something else. Verse 16.
And Samson's wife wept before him, and said, Thou dost but hate me, and lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people, and hast not told it me. And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father, nor my mother, and shall I tell it thee?
So she went to him crying and pleading and doing all the things that women do to entice the man. And Samson said, I didn't tell it to my parents. I'm not going to tell it to you. But she kept on. Verse 17.
And she wept before him the 7 days, while their feast lasted. And it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him. And she told the riddle of the children of her people.
18.
And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day, before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?
Mm-hmm.
And he said unto them, If ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle.
All right. Verse 19.
And the Spirit of the Most High came upon him, and went down to Ashkelon, and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garments unto them which expounded the riddle, and his anger was kindled. And he went up to his father's house.
In verse 20.
But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend.
All right. On the 7th day of the feast, the bride extracted from Samson the interpretation of the riddle and related its meaning to the people, that the carcass of the young lion which Samson killed with his bare hands had attracted bees that produced the honey therein in the body. Samson paid the wager by slaying 30 Philistines, and after that he took a wife. In the context of the prophecy, though, Samson's riddle was a prophecy that the tribe of Dan will one day try to destroy the tribe of Judah. And that reason why is because of revenge. It's because of revenge. Because the Most High told unto Dan, because of their idolatry, they're going to be now separated. So what better way is we're going to take our revenge out? It's kind of like the Most High. It's kind of like your parents punish. There's two children, right? The father punishes the one child, even though both children were in the wrong. The father punished the one child who did the most dangerous deed. And the child says, you know what? Father punished me, but I'm going to get you. That's what happened. The carcass was Judah, and Dan is symbolized by the bees. Okay. Now, let's show something else about Dan. The northern tribes, right? First king was Jeroboam. Okay? Now, Jeroboam in the 10 tribes, right? They were in captivity in Assyria, and then they went over to the Americas, right?
Con.
Yes, sir.
But not all 10 went. Dan stayed behind. And Dan didn't come over to the Americas like everybody else. We're going to see what they did. So let's go to 1 Kings chapter 12, verses 26 to 33. So we have went from Egypt, okay? We're not in Greece yet, but we went to Egypt. Dan is established in their own lands, and they're taking over people's lands. Okay? We're going to read in 1 Kings chapter 12, and we're going to start at verse 26. All right, you got it?
Yes.
Come on, let's read it.
1 Kings chapter 12, verse 26.
All right.
And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David.
Okay.
If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Most High at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah. And they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah.
All right, verse 28.
Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold.
He did what?
Made 2 calves of gold.
Jeroboam made 2 calves of gold. Go ahead.
And said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
So we're now getting understanding from Egypt. We're not in Greece yet. But read verse 29. Let's get verse 29.
And he set the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan.
In who?
In Dan.
In Dan. So now we get an understanding. Okay, Egypt, calves, Yahweh, whatever the case may be. Jeroboam did the same thing, created 2 golden images just like we did in the wilderness. And then set one in Bethel and the one in Dan. And we're going to pause the teaching for a second because I want to explain Bethel real quick. Verse 30.
And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan.
All right. Now, you know what? Let's finish this. Let's finish this verse, and then we're going to talk about Bethel real quick. And I'm going to show you something that the churches will never, ever, ever show you, especially if they're First Baptist Church of Bethel, First Missionary Church of Bethel. I'm going to show you something. Let's go. We're going to sidetrack for a second, and we're going to learn something on the way to learn something. Verse 31.
And he made an house of high places, and made priests of the lords of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi.
So Dan decided, you know what? These Levite priests are done away with. We're going to be the priest. 32.
And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th day, Zalakia, on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah, and he offered upon the altar. So did he in Bethel.
He did it in Bethel. Okay, we're going to get understanding on what Bethel is. And what, let's go, finish that verse.
Sacrificing unto the calves that he had made, and he placed in Bethel, the priest of the high places which he had made.
So Bethel, they were sacrificing golden calves. They were doing all this stuff, right? In Bethel. Dan, right? Verse 33.
So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel, and he offered upon the altar and burnt incense.
And also they had golden calves in there as well. And they had all kinds of wonderful idols that they made. Are you kidding me right now? All right, Bethel. Let's get an understanding of this real quick. There are 7,500 churches today with the name Bethlehem. Okay? Now, they'll tell you that Bethel, it's named due to we call our church Bethel because Abraham built an altar in Bethel, and that altar was to the Most High, and that's why our churches are named after Bethel, because we know that altar that Abraham built, he built it in Bethel, and that's why our church name has Bethel in it. But let's see. Let's go to Genesis 12. Let's see because I went and I searched on names with churches of Bethel. And the groups of these churches that have Bethel in it, the reason why their name is Bethel in the church is because Abraham put an altar in the city of Bethel. And that's why they call their church First Baptist Missionary at Bethel and all this other stuff. But it's to deceive you. Let's see. Let's go to Genesis chapter 12 and let's read verses 5 through 8 and let's see if Abraham made an altar in Bethel. Read.
Genesis chapter 12 verse 5. And Abram took Sarai his wife and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came.
They came into the land of Canaan, verse 6.
And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem.
Shechem. What? That's Shechem. Let's start verse 6 again.
And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem.
Go ahead.
Unto the plain of Moriah.
Go ahead.
And the Canaanite was then in the land.
All right, so Abraham stopped at Shechem, right?
Come.
Interesting. Verse 7.
And the Most High appeared unto Abram and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land, and there builded he an altar.
He did what?
And builded he an altar.
Where did he built this altar?
Shechem.
In Shechem. Read.
Unto the Most High, who appeared unto him.
Let's read verse 8.
And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west.
Having Bethel where?
On the west.
Having Bethel on the west. He was not in Bethel. Bethel was on the west. The mountain was on the east. Go ahead.
And high on the east.
Go ahead.
And there he builded an altar unto the Most High, and called upon the name of the Most High.
But he was in the land of Shechem. If you read verse 6.
Oh my goodness.
He was in the land of Shechem. He was not in the land of Bethel. So, the Christian church don't want to tell you that the city of Bethel is the city of Satan.
Oh, wow.
The deception.
So, if you read in the Bible and you read 1 Kings, they were doing all kinds of satanic practices in 1 Kings. In what city?
Bethel.
In Bethel.
That's why
And Jeroboam built an altar in Bethel to the Most High. It wasn't Abraham, it was Jeroboam. And they were sacrificing gods of Yahweh.
he was worshiping. the
So,
devil.
what God are you celebrating at the church First Missionary Baptist of Bethel?
Satan.
Satan.
Wow.
See that?
I see that.
So why are these churches naming themselves after Bethel?
Because they're the synagogue.
You gotta read your Bible. It's so easy to rebuke whatever Christian doctrine is out there.
Christians are the easy ones.
Let's read Judges 5:17 again. Like I said, you don't have to write it down because we're going to be there a couple of times. Let's read Judges 5:17 again. I wanted to show you that because as I'm going through this lesson and I'm reading, I'm like, what's up with Bethel? And the Holy Spirit said, look up Bethel. And that's when wait a minute, it's the city of the devil. All right, let's read Judges 5:17 again.
Judges chapter 5, verse 17. Gilead abode beyond Jordan, and why did Dan remain in ships? Asher continued on the seashore and abode in his breeches.
Okay, why did Dan abode in ships? Where did Dan go? Where did Dan go? What happened to Dan? Right? Let's get Ezekiel 27. Let's get Ezekiel 27. And we're going to be reading verses 1 through 9. Okay. Let's read.
Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 1. The word of the Most High came again unto me, saying, Now, thou son of man, take up a lamentation for Tyrus,
We're going to find out who Tyrus is. Verse 3.
and say unto Tyrus, O thou that art situate at the entry of the sea, which art a merchant of the people for many isles, thus saith the Most High thy power. O Tyrus, thou hast said, I am of perfect beauty.
Okay, hold there. So, it says that Tyrus, and it talks about in verse 3, a entry of the sea, which are a merchant of the people for many isles. I'm going to show you that. Let's continue on. Verse 4.
Thy borders are in the midst of the seas. Thy builders have perfected thy beauty.
Builders. Okay, go ahead.
They have made all the shipboards of fir trees of Sinner. They have taken cedars from Lebanon to make masts, Salakia, for thee. Of the oaks of Bashan have they made thine oars. The company of the Ashurites have made thy benches of ivory, brought out of the isles of Chittim.
Verse 7.
Fine linen with broidered work from Egypt.
Fine linen and broidered work from who?
Egypt
Go ahead.
was that which thou spreadest forth to be thy sail.
What colors are they?
Blue and purple.
Go ahead.
From the isles of Elisha was that which covered thee.
All right. Fine broidered work. That's the work of Dan. Verse 8.
The inhabitants of Zidon and Arbad were thy mariners. Thy wise men, O Tyrus, that were in thee, were thy pilots.
We're going to find out who Tyrus is. Verse 9.
The ancients of Gabal and the wise men thereof were indeed thy calkers. All the ships of the sea with their mariners were in thee to occupy thy merchandise.
All right. So, I want you to hold on that thought because we're going to show you something later. So we're going to stay in Ezekiel 27, but let's go down to verse 13.
And let us get back there.
You should be in Ezekiel 27. You're just going to go down to verse 13, right?
Okay.
All right, let's read it.
Javan, Tubal, and Meshach, they were thy merchants. They traded the persons of men and vessels of brass in thy market.
Now, question.
13.
Javan, Tubal, and Meshach are who?
They were
They were Gentiles, right? Let's go to Isaiah 66:19. Hold Ezekiel. And let's go to Isaiah 66:19. Because we're going to go back to Ezekiel. Okay. Let's wait till everybody get there. We're about to enter Greece. If you didn't notice, we're about to enter Greece. Okay. All right. Let's read.
Isaiah chapter 66, verse 19. And I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them unto the nations, to Tarshish, Pul, and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan, to the isles afar off, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my glory, and they shall declare my glory among the Gentiles.
All right, so it talks about Javan again. The ships, Javan, right? Gentiles, right? So Javan lives in the Isles. But what does this have to do with Dan? What does Javan have to do with Dan? So let's go back to Ezekiel 27. Okay? And we're going to read verse 19. All right? Ezekiel 27, and we're going to read verse 19. Read it.
Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 19.
Go ahead.
Dan also and Javan.
Dan and who?
Javan.
Dan and Javan. Go ahead.
Going to and fro.
They're doing what?
Going to and fro.
Go ahead.
Occupied in thy fairs.
They occupied in thy fairs, meaning they worked with each other.
Their business, yeah.
Read.
Bright iron, cassia, and calamus were in thy market.
All right. So now, why was Dan with Javan? Okay. And who is Javan today? So let me ask a question. Who is Javan today? What group of people are Javan today?
Greece.
Who?
Greece.
Obviously. Right? Let's go to Genesis chapter
Who
10.
said it? Who said the answer? I didn't hear you. Greece?
Greece.
Yeah.
So now we're entering into Greece.
They had their business with the Greeks. Yeah.
Japheth.
All right? All right, let's read Genesis chapter 10, verse 1.
Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood.
Go ahead.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus.
Javan is the Greeks. If you go to your Strong's Concordance and you look up Javan, it's going to say Greece or Idoma. Wait, where's my note? Iowa. That's it.
What is Iowa?
Got it right here. All right, so it's H3120, Javan, the son of Japheth, the grandson of Noah, Greece, Ionia, location of the descendants of Japheth.
Yeah.
Okay? So now we see that Javan, Greece, Dan was on ships. We looked at the map earlier and we saw that Dan was on the Mediterranean coast. And they went to Isles, the Greek Isles, right? So Dan dealt with ships, and there was many Greek Isles off of where Dan was given land. Now, I want you to hold that because Dan did not come over with the 10 tribes. They stayed. So let's read Ezekiel 27 and 3 again. Let's read that again.
Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 3. And say unto Tyrus, O thou that art situate at the entry of the sea, which art a merchant of the people for many isles, thus saith the Most High, O Tyrus, thou hast said, I am of perfect beauty.
Who is Tyrus? See, when you're reading the Bible, you should be asking yourself these questions.
Yeah.
Who is Tyrus? I need to find out who Tyrus is. Let's go to Ezekiel 28.
Ezekiel 28.
Yes, Ezekiel 28. Let's find out who Tyrus is. And we're going to be reading verses 11 through 19. And it's going to show you who Tyrus is. Read.
Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 11. Moreover, the word of the Most High came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Most High thy power, thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty.
Wow, the Most High really don't like this king, does he? Let's go to verse 13.
Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Ahiah. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the pearl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created.
Verse 14.
Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of the Most High. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire.
All right, so we get an understanding that Tyrus is Satan.
So, what did you say before you had him to read this, though?
What?
What did you say before you told him to read this?
We need to find out who Tyrus is.
No, before that. He was reading.
I don't remember now. I don't remember.
So, yeah, that's what I was saying. So, Dan knew
Yes.
that they was worshiping
Satan.
and serving the devil. They
Right.
knew what they were doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Verse 15.
Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mouth of the Most High, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, it shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee.
Now, go ahead.
All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more.
There you go. Dan, Tyrus, and Satan are the same. And Dan would be worshiping Satan.
But let's go back even a little bit further. When Dan went in to take the land from Ephraim, that's what Micah was doing. That's why he had those statues.
Right.
Because Levi has started, the Levite priest has started worshiping the devil as well.
Right. They started to fall off.
Yeah, building idols,
Okay.
bowing down, yeah.
All right. So let's continue in Ezekiel 27, and let's go to verse 32. Okay. So see, Dan, now we get an idea. Okay, now here comes Greece. So they had to get the idea somewhere. There were no, let me say this. There were Greek gods prior, but the temples and everything, the embroidery and everything, where did they get that from? They got it from Dan. Greece was not a world power at this point. Egypt was still a world power to a certain degree. Because now we're into Ezekiel, which is Babylon and Persia. These were the world powers at this time. Greece was not a world power then. Greece did not become a world power until about 300 BC. Somewhere around 300 to 350, even early as maybe 450 BC. But I'm going to show you something about that as well. Okay? Let's read first Ezekiel 27, and let's start at verse 32. We're going to read through to 36.
Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 32.
Go ahead.
And in their wailing they shall take up a lamentation for thee, and a lament over thee, saying, What city is like Tyrus, like the destroyed in the midst of the sea?
Hold there for a second. So the last few Bible studies, they have not been Christian Bible studies. This is meat. Okay, this is meat. This is what meat is. This is not milk. So like I said, you got to keep up. Because we're going to go a different direction now. Go ahead.
When thy tears went forth out of the seas, thou fillest many people. Thou didst enrich the kings of the earth with the multitude of thy riches and of thy merchandise.
The Most High is talking of Satan and how Satan has built up the merchandise, built up the people of the sea, built up the people, in particular, Dan. Yeah, please. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
When thy wares went forth out of the sea, thou fillest many people. Thou didst enrich the kings of the sea with the kings of the earth with the multitude of thy riches and of thy merchandise. In the time when thou shalt be broken by the seas in the depths of the waters, thy merchandise and all thy company in the midst of thee shall fall. All the inhabitants of the isles shall be astonished at thee.
All the inhabitants of who?
The isles.
All the inhabitants of who?
The isles.
We already have determined that the isles were where Dan was.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And their kings shall be sore afraid. They shall be troubled in their countenance. Their merchants among the people shall hiss at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt be any more.
And never shall be any more. Dan, Javan connection. The Greek Empire started about 323 BC. The Roman Empire didn't start till about 140 BC. Now, there was a letter written about 60 BC. Okay? Let's go to Apocrypha. We're going to be in 1 Maccabees, the 12th chapter. We're going to be reading the entire chapter.
When did the Roman Empire start?
About 140 BC. All right? Now let's get an idea. In fact, let's actually say who are the Danites today. 1 Maccabees, the 12th chapter. Okay? That's the devil not liking what's going on. It's a storm. All right, let's read 1 Maccabees 12. Go ahead.
1 Maccabees chapter 12, verse 1. Now when Jonathan saw that the time served him, he chose certain men and sent them to Rome for to confirm and renew the friendship that they had with them.
Renew the friendship, right? Verse 2.
He sent letters also to the Lacedaemonians.
The Lacedaemonians. That's very key for what we're going to talk about next. Go ahead.
And to other places for the same purpose.
Come on.
So they went unto Rome and entered into the Senate.
So
and,
now, go ahead and finish that.
And said, Jonathan the high priest and the people of the Jews sent us unto you, to the end ye should renew the friendship which ye had with them, and league as in former time.
Come on. Go ahead.
Upon this the Romans gave them letters unto the governors of every place, that they should bring them into the land of Judea peaceably. And this is the copy of the letters which Jonathan wrote to the Lacedaemonians.
Very key. Listen to this. Read.
Jonathan the high priest, and the elders of the nation, and the priests, and the other people of the Jews, unto the Lacedaemonians and their brethren.
Their what?
Their brethren.
Their what?
Their brethren.
Their brethren. Read.
Send greetings.
Send greeting. Verse 7.
There were letters sent in times past unto Onias, the high priest from Darius, who reigned then among you, to signify that ye are our brethren.
To signify what?
Ye are our brethren.
To signify what?
Ye are our brethren.
Ye are our brethren, the Lacedaemonians. Read.
As the copy here underwritten doth specify.
Verse 8.
At which time Onias entreated the ambassador that was sent honorably, and received the letters wherein the declaration was made of the league and friendship.
Verse 9.
Therefore we also, albeit we need none of these things, for that we have the holy books of Scripture in our hands to comfort us.
The holy book is the Bible. Okay. Verse 10.
Have nevertheless attempted to send unto you for the renewing of brotherhood and friendship.
The renewing of what?
Brotherhood and friendship.
Read.
Lest we should become strangers unto you together, all together.
Unless we become strangers altogether. And that's somewhat of what's happened. Go ahead.
For there is a long time past since ye sent unto us.
It was a long time past. A long time past. They're talking hundreds of years. Go ahead.
We therefore at all times without ceasing, both in our feasts and and other convenient days, do remember you in the sacrifices.
Do remember you in the sacrifices. So they never lost on who their brothers were. Read.
Which we offer, and in our prayers,
Come on.
as reason is, and as it becometh us to think upon our brethren.
Our brethren. Verse 12.
And we are right glad of your honor.
We are right glad of your honor. So Judah was reaching out. Read.
As for ourselves, we have had great troubles and wars on every side, for so much as the kings that are round about us have fought against us.
So Jonathan was writing letters to the Lacedaemonians. The Romans knew who the Lacedaemonians were. The holy book was the Bible. So this is Israel writing letters to our brothers in Greece. Right? Verse 19.
Howbeit, we would not be troublesome unto you, nor to others of our confederates and friends in these wars. For we have help from heaven that succoureth us. So as we are delivered from our enemies, and our enemies are brought under foot.
Hold. Is that 1 Maccabees 12?
Rakan. Howbeit, we would not be troublesome. Verse 14.
No. I'm sorry. Skip down to verse 19. Yeah. Verse 19. First Maccabees 12, verse 19 to 23. I didn't mean for you to read all that. Go ahead.
And this is the copy of the letters which Onias sent. Arius, king of the Lacedaemonians, to Onias the high priest, greetings.
Go ahead.
It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren.
They're what?
Are brethren.
The Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren. Read.
And that they are the stock of Abraham.
They're out of the stock of Abraham. So this would make you think, okay, I need to look up and see who the Lacedaemonians are. But actually, you don't have to. This is what you need. Because this tells us who the Lacedaemonians are. The Cambridge Annotated Study Apocrypha. Very detailed. And I'm going to show you who the Lacedaemonians are. All right? Verse 20. Yeah, finish 21.
And that they are of the stock of Abraham. Now therefore, since this is come to our knowledge, ye shall do well to write unto us of your prosperity.
You shall do well to write unto us your prosperity. Go ahead.
We do write back again to you, that your cattle and goods are ours, and ours are yours.
Come on.
We do command, therefore, our ambassadors to make report unto you on this wise.
So he's saying what's yours is ours, and what's ours is yours. He's saying what's yours, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. Brethren. Right? That's how brethren operate. So we're going to hold off for, get this for me. 1 Maccabees 12:21. While they're out there. All right, so we're going to get 1 Maccabees 12:21 in the Anointed Apocrypha.
Annotated?
In the Yeah, verse 21. It's underlined. All right, I want you to hold that though, while they're. Somebody let that. All right. So we now see the Lacedaemonians. All right, and we know that they're our brethren, but that still gets us a question mark on who they are. Remember, I told you to mark down 600 troops, right? And how a force those 600 troops were, and how Ephraim was so afraid of these 600 troops. Okay? All right, so remember, who are the Lacedaemonians? All right? So we know that they are brethren. But who are they? You don't have to Google search it. We have it right here. First Maccabees, you know what? Let's read it from the Apocrypha first. First Maccabees chapter 12, verse 21. Read that from the Apocrypha first.
First Maccabees chapter 12, verse 21. It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren, and that they are of the stock of Abraham.
Now, we're going to take that same verse and go to the annotated. Read.
First Maccabees chapter 12, verse 21.
Come on.
It has been found in writing concerning the Spartans.
The what?
The Spartans.
The who?
The Spartans.
The what?
The Spartans.
The who?
The Spartans.
The what?
The Spartans.
The who?
The Spartans.
The Spartans were black.
Yeah.
They were not white.
They were not Greek.
Read that again from the top.
First Maccabees chapter 12, verse 21.
Read.
It has been found in writing concerning the Spartans and the Jews that they are brothers.
They are what?
They are brothers.
They are what?
They are brothers.
The Spartans and the Jews are brethren. Remember, finish that verse.
And are of the family of Abraham.
And of the family of Abraham. So remember when I told you earlier those 600 look fearful? What about 300?
Oh, yeah.
The 600 look fearful enough. What about the 300? Right? You don't think the 300's in the Bible, do you?
So what?
You don't think the 300's in the Bible? Let's show you the 300 in the Bible. So let's finish. Yes, ma'am.
So what tribe were they from?
Dan.
The Spartans was from
The Spartans were Dan.
Yeah.
So Macedonians, Danites, Spartans.
Lacedaemonian, yes, we just read it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where have y'all been? We just read it.
Just wow.
All right. So First Maccabees 12:21 in the annotated says Spartans. Here, First Maccabees 12:21 in your normal apocrypha says Lacedaemonians, but they are of the same. Okay?
That was a lot.
Now, the Spartans are the tribe of Dan. The movie 300, that's all about the Danites.
Yeah.
Dan, Greece, and Rome were together at one point in history.
Yeah.
They all were together at one point. But something happened where there was a schism. All right? The Romans and the Greeks and Dan were worshiping the same gods at one point. The Danites were they were worshiping the same gods at one point. Then the Romans turned on the Greeks and started naming their gods after something else, but they kept the same worships. What was the fight? 146 BC. Okay? The Roman, read this. Read this. 146 BC.
The Romans were very angry at the Greeks, and they started to take Greece over as well. At first, the Romans pretended to let Greece be independent, but by 146 BC, the Romans destroyed Corinth and made Greece into a province of the Roman Empire.
Okay, go ahead.
When did Greece fall to Rome? This period begins with the death of Alexander and ends with the Roman conquest. Roman Greece.
Roman who?
Roman Greece.
Roman Greece. They were together. Read.
Is usually considered to be the period between Roman victory over the Corinthians at the Battle of Corinth in the 146 BC and the establishment of Byzantium by Constantine as the capital of the Roman Empire in AD 330.
In AD 330. All right. So when did Rome become an empire? Read that.
Battle of Corinth, 146 BC.
Battle of Corinth, 146 BC. It's very, very key. Go ahead.
The Battle of Corinth was a battle fought between the Roman Republic and the Greek city-state of Corinth and its allies in the Achaean League in 146 BC, which resulted in the complete and total destruction of Corinth.
And thus, the end of the Greek Empire.
So the Greek Empire was Dan?
Not the whole Greek Empire, no.
The Spartans.
Some of
The
them.
Spartans. Now you had the Spartans and you had the Aegeans. Okay? And then you had the normal people of Greece. Alright? So Greece wasn't all Spartan. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
So Greece fell after the Battle of Corinth, and that's when Rome came and became an empire.
Correct. Okay, I want you to read this right here about the Battle of Corinth. Hold. Yes?
Did we already go over how the prophecy of Solomon was fulfilled with the lion and the beast? Samson, no.
No.
We haven't? So.
No, that prophecy is not going to come to pass.
Oh, okay, so it was just something he was saying in the riddle and never came
We
to
were
pass.
doing that to show how the Most High will not allow Dan to be one of the 144. That was
Okay.
one of the reasons why. So that's why we showed that. Because Dan was against his people, his brethren. And mighty funny that his brethren started to reach back out to Dan. And I'm going to show you that in Acts also.
That was my question with the whole Apocrypha, how Judah was writing
How-
to,
Right,
yeah,
Jonathan
yeah.
was writing in the Maccabees. Correct. Yes, ma'am.
So like to piggyback off what she said, you know how like other people like other camps they say Dan isn't part of the 12 tribes because they don't exist. It's because they were doing satanic stuff. Is that
Wait,
why?
they just say what?
You know how like people say Dan isn't a part of the 12 tribes anymore because like they don't exist. But
Well,
it's
who said
because-
Dan wasn't part of the
You know
12
like different.
tribes?
No, I'm saying like at the beginning, like why you don't include
Right.
Dan on this
Oh, okay.
chart?
Why you don't include, right?
You know how people say it's because they don't exist, but is it really because they were doing satanic stuff and worshiping of the devil and being in cahoots with the Greek people?
Yes. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
We have a question on the chat.
Sure.
Someone says, does that mean that Spartans were Japhet?
No. Spartans were not Japhet. Spartans were from the tribe of Dan. Japhet had sons, and his sons were Javan. One of his sons was Javan. Javan are the Greeks or Aegeans. Dan came to the Greeks and the Aegeans, and they formed a league. Okay? Let's read the. So that should answer your question. No, Dan was not from Japhet. Dan was from Jacob.
The Spartans.
And Dan are the Spartans. But the Spartans were not these white guys running around. The Spartans were dark skinned. Okay? Let's read this real quick on Corinth. You know what? We read that already. Okay. Let's start from here.
At the regular meeting of the League in May 146 BC in Corinth, the Roman delegates were insulted, threatened, and when they complained of the treatment they received, they were virtually chased out of the meeting by the mob assembled for the occasion by the anti-Roman faction.
All right, so there was this meeting between the Greeks and the Romans, and the Romans delegates, they became insulted, right? Let's continue to read.
Upon receiving the news, the Roman Senate ordered Lucius Mummius, the consul of 146 BC, to lead a fleet and land force against Achaeans.
Go ahead.
The Romans defeated and destroyed their main rival in the Mediterranean, Carthage, and spent the following months in provoking the Greeks.
Spent the following months provoking the Greeks. Remember, they were together. Go ahead.
The Roman consul Mummius, with 23,000 infantry and 3,500 cavalry, probably 2 legions, plus Italian allies, with an unspecified number of Cretans, archers, and Pergamese contingent sent for Pergamon by King Attalus, advanced into the Peloponnese against the revolutionary Achaean government.
All right. So start from here. But the popular terror.
But popular terror had succeeded to popular passion. Dias,
go ahead.
camped at Corinth with 14,000 infantry and 600 cavalry, plus possibly some survivors of another army that had been defeated earlier.
Go ahead.
The overbold and partly untrained army of Dias met the Romans in open battles in Isthmus at a place called Leucopatria. The result was an overwhelming defeat for the Achaeans.
That's the start of the Roman Empire. That was the start of the Roman Empire. The Battle of Corinth. All right? We're going to go back, because I know we're in Rome right now. But we're going to go back, and I'm going to show you something about the 300. Okay? So, but first, before we get there, let's go to the Testament of the Patriarchs, the 12 tribes, and let's see what Dan said on his deathbed to his children. Yes.
On Dan's deathbed, was this before or after they started serving other gods and became wicked?
No, Dan, this is Dan.
Oh.
This is the actual patriarch.
Well, so at the time, was Dan, his people,
His family.
What were they doing?
No, they weren't even in Egypt at this. They were in Egypt, but they weren't in slavery at this time.
So the 12 patriarchs died before slavery happened in Egypt, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all of them did. You have to read in the book of Jasher, and it'll tell you that all of them did. Joseph died. All of them died before the Egyptians put bondage over them.
And you have to know that the 400 years was not all slavery.
Right.
Our people had land because of Joseph. They were kings and they ruled the land.
All right, let's get to the 12 patriarchs. And this is on chapter 4, page 74. And let's read about Dan.
The Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs, Dan chapter 4, verse 4. I know that in the last days ye shall depart from the Most High.
This is what he's saying. Listen to what he's saying, because everything that he said was right on target. And you know what? Dan, his children did not listen to when Dan was prophesying to them. They did not listen. But listen to what Dan was saying. Go ahead.
And ye shall provoke Levi unto anger, and fight against Judah.
You shall do what?
And fight against Judah.
See that? Provoke Levi to anger. They got that guy and took his idols and all that. That made him mad. Then provoke Judah to fight against Judah. Remember Judges the 14th chapter. See how it's coming together now. Go ahead.
But ye shall not prevail against them. For an angel of the Most High shall guide them both. For by them shall Israel stand. And whensoever ye depart from the Most High, ye shall walk in all evil and work the abominations of the Gentiles.
See that? We all thought that Spartans were Gentiles. They were our brethren. That movie 300 was very, very accurate, except for the color. Everything else was accurate, but you know what? They left something out in 300. And I'm going to show you that too. Read.
Going a-whoring after women of the lawless ones, while with all wickedness the spirits of wickedness work in you.
All wickedness The spirit of wickedness. That's a double wickedness. This is Dan. Egypt, Greece, Rome. Read.
For I have read in the book of Enoch, the righteous, that your prince is Satan, and that all the spirits of wickedness and pride will conspire to attend constantly on the sons of Levi to cause them to sin before the Most High.
Your worship is Satan. Read.
And my sons will draw near to Levi and sin with them in all things.
My sons will draw near to Levi and sin with them. Levi was falling off. All kinds of gods that they were worshiping. House gods, idol gods. Levi fell off. And of course the high priest hid him in his house, but he would go to the temple and do the sacrifices. Father was displeased with that in Malachi. Go ahead.
And the sons of Judah will be covetous, plundering other men's goods.
The sons of Judah would be what?
Covetous.
That's how
Our people are covetous to this day.
Crabs in a bucket.
Read.
Plundering other men's goods like lions. Therefore shall ye be led away with them into captivity.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Go ahead.
And there shall ye receive all the plagues of Egypt.
All the plagues of Egypt. We're going to do a teaching probably in September on the plagues of Egypt. We're going to get an understanding of that thing too. Because that thing has been taught wrong also. Read.
And so when ye return to the Most High, ye shall obtain mercy. Salakia, and all the evils of the Gentiles. And so when ye return to the Most High, ye shall obtain mercy. And
See, that's what it means when Dan had the gates. There's still a gate going to be in the New Jerusalem for Dan. There's still going to be a section of the city, the wall, for Dan. There just won't be any leadership spots for Dan. If they repent. Go ahead.
And he shall bring you into his sanctuary, and he shall give you peace. And there shall arise unto you from the tribe of Judah and of Levi the salvation of the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
And he shall make war against Beliar, and execute an everlasting vengeance on our enemies.
Uh-huh.
And the captivity shall he take from Beliar the souls of the saints, and turn disobedient hearts unto the Most High, and give to them that call upon him eternal peace.
You see that? Read.
And the saints shall rest in Eden, and in the new Jerusalem will the righteous rejoice. And it shall be unto the glory of the Most High forever, and no longer shall Jerusalem endure desolation.
Now, how did Dan know about the New Jerusalem?
Right.
Prophecy. Start listening to it. You got a question? Yeah. What's your question?
So it says that that Dan will go into slavery with Judah.
What you think happened to him? I'm gonna show you what happened to him. Let's go.
So that means that they look like, and we are led to believe that, even people that don't read are led to believe that Dan doesn't exist to this day because we don't know how they look.
Well, they do exist.
But yeah. So does that mean that Dan looks kind of like Judah? If they went into slavery, like we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between Dan. We know how the other tribes look, but nobody knows how the Danites look like besides, you know.
Yes, you do. Take a look at Issachar. Yes, you do. Take a look at Gad. Yes, you do. Take a look at Asher. All right. You finished that?
We got Dan's death and burial.
No. Okay. Go to chapter 7, verse 3, page number 776. Go ahead.
The Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs, chapter 7, verse 3. Nevertheless, Dan prophesied unto them that they should forget their power.
What?
That they should forget their power.
Read that again, starting from the top.
Nevertheless, Dan prophesied unto them that they should forget their power.
They're going to forget their power. Go ahead.
And should be alienated from the land of their inheritance,
They're going to be what?
Alienated from the land of their inheritance,
Go ahead.
and from the race of Israel, and from the family of their seed.
There you go. They're going to be erased. Up until the time somebody starts looking at this stuff and like, wait a minute. Dan is still here today. Okay? Dan is still here today. One moment. All right. So now let's get to the 300. Okay? Where in the Bible is the 300? So we're going to talk about Thermopylae, and everybody knows where Thermopylae is, right? There was the little pass where the 300 soldiers sat there and they fought off against the Persian army. And let's go to the book of Esther. All right, so the Battle of Thermopylae is one of the most historic battles in military history. 300 Spartan soldiers led by King Leonidas engaged a mission, a suicide self-sacrifice by holding off the mighty Persian army within 3 days. Now, you have to understand and know, the Persian army was like the United States Army today. Thermopylae, these 300 were like 300 Somalian refugees. To get an idea. But these 300 were fighters. Okay? And the Thermopylae Pass was about 20 yards wide. So you got 300 soldiers in a pass that's only 20 yards wide. It's going to be kind of hard to penetrate, especially if they're warriors. In the book of Esther, this battle and the Persian war against the Greeks takes place in chapters 1 and in chapter 2. So let's go to Esther chapter 2, verse 1, and let's get an understanding of what the Bible is saying. Esther 2 and 1. Read.
Esther chapter 2, verse 1. After these things, when the wrath of the king Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her.
But the key part of this verse is after these things. After what things? The Spartan military, city-state with two kings that claimed to be the descendant of the demigod Hercules. That's how far they fell off. They were famous for fighting in public military. The Spartan women had a lot of freedom. They could wrestle in the nude, they inherit property, and if they were married, publicly insult bachelors. They were able to do all that. So the movie Sparta was actually correct as far as when the woman spoke out. Remember that?
Yeah.
And the Persian guy, wait a minute, this woman speaks. Why is this woman speaking? That was normal in Dan. Spartans had unusual sexual customs such as polygamy, more than one wife, socially accepted wife sharing, and instituted pedophilia with young men and teenage boys. So they adopted a lot of what the Greeks were doing. Thermopylae was a narrow pass separating northern Greece from central Greece. The word Thermopylae means hot gates because there were three sections of the pass going east. East between the steep mountains to the south and the Gulf of Malasis to the north. And there was hot springs of sulfur in between the way. Okay? So Xerxes was king of Persia, and he entered into Greece about 480 BC in order to revenge his father Darius, who the Greeks defeated at Marathon. There was a battle called Marathon, and Darius was defeated and killed at this battle with the Greeks. So Xerxes then got his army, and that's what it says in Esther 2:1. So Xerxes got this army of 150,000 men. He had 1,200 Navy warships and 10,000 of the what he called the immortals, right? All this against 300 troops. Remember what I said in the book of Jasher on how we were as a people and how these super, quote unquote, superheroes, they were brought. Somebody read the book of Jasher and thought, I can create Superman out of this. I can create Batman out of this. We were doing that stuff and then some, right? So Herodias then reports that the army with its support with 1 million people from all over Persia. So it started to spread. The news started to spread in Persia. Let's see that in Esther 1:1. Esther chapter 1 verse 1. Let's read it.
Esther chapter 1 verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces.
India to Ethiopia, that's big. That's huge. And that was Xerxes or Ahasuerus' rule. Okay? Now, on the day of the battle, Xerxes sent the Medes against the Spartans. And we know the Medes are the Russians now. And with heavy loss, the Medes were defeated. Excuse me. So then Xerxes decided to send a second wave to break through the pass. But that failed. So you had these 300 troops and they were holding it down. Holding it down. And at the end of the day, the immortals were thrown against the Spartans. But again, the immortals couldn't defeat them. So Xerxes is saying, wait a minute. I got 1,200 warships. I got 1,500 troops. 10,000 of my immortals. And we can't defeat 300 men? On the evening of the battle the second day, there was a traitor named Ephialtes. You know, the humpback guy, right? He wasn't really a humpback guy. They just did that to make it more dramatizing. But he was a traitor. And in exchange for money, he led the immortals through the back path so they can flank the Spartans. And when they did that at night, in the morning, all 300 were dead. All 300. But see, the Spartans, the Danites, they held their ground until the very last one. Until the very last one was dead. So then after the battle, Xerxes, he buried the 300s, but he cut off the head of Leonidas and put it on a spear. But what they don't tell you is that Xerxes buried about 1,900 of his own troops and called them Spartans. Why did he do that? Because if he would have left those 300 graves, then that would have demoralized the army. Wait a minute. All our people are dead. And these 300 are still here? See, what they don't tell you is that Xerxes sat up there and said, you know what? I got this army. Keep everybody back. You troops go in there and bury these dead people. So that his forces would think that they had accomplished they defeated this huge army. When in fact, they only killed 300. Yes, ma'am.
They kind of did something like that when our people was leaving Egypt and Pharaoh's army was killed and all that. The Egyptians, the Hamites, whatever they are.
Hamites.
They left it out of their records. They did not put that in their records.
Yes, they did.
What happened to their army at the sea.
Yes, they did. And the scholar at that time, it eludes me right now what his name was. But he left out that key important figure. But our scholar Josephus called him out on it. In the book of Josephus, Josephus called him out and said, but wait a minute, Why did he not put this in here? You have to read Josephus was bold. All right. So the historical setting of the book of Esther. So then King Xerxes had a pep rally to entice the other kings of his empire to join on this military expedition to Greece after he defeated Leonidas and the 300. So let's go to Esther chapter 1, verses 3 through 4. That whole party that they had, that party was to get the rest of the kings involved so that now his campaign would be to go and annihilate Greece.
Oh.
Because is that Greece killed his father?
Yes. The Greeks killed Darius earlier. Xerxes wanted revenge, and that's when the 300 came in.
Yeah.
Okay? After the 300 were killed, Xerxes went back to Persia and threw this big party to get them together because he's going to make one last push to Greece. But let's read this in Esther. Esther chapter 1, verse 3. Read it.
Esther chapter 1 verse 3. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces being before him, when he shewed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 180 days.
140 days they partied. Okay? At this banquet, each participant got their own gold vessels. Each vessel individually crafted was different. This banquet was designed to encourage all the other kings. Remember, he had from India to Ethiopia, brought all these kings together for their Greek vacation against the armies of Greece. Okay? Didn't turn out so well for him though. Let's go to Esther chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. And let's see these gold vessels. Let's read it.
Esther chapter 1 verse 7. And they gave them drink in the vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure.
Every man's pleasure. Do whatever you want.
Because he needed them to help finance.
He needed them to help finance it. But little did he know that you really don't mess around with Spartans. Because the 300 died, but there was more Spartans after that, and those Spartans trained the Greeks and the Aegeans, and when Medo-Persia came up against them again, it wasn't a good sight. At that time, Alexander the Greek was in power, and we all know what happened after that. So the chief god of Dan was the golden calf of Yahweh. We knew that they were Danites on the Isle of Spartan, and we tried to convert them. Let's go to Acts 11. Acts chapter 11, verse 19 and 20. So we knew where Dan was, and we tried to convert them. We tried to bring them back. Okay, Acts 11, 19, 20. Let's read.
Acts chapter 11 verse 19. Now they which were scattered abroad upon the persecution that arose about Stephen traveled as far as Phoenix and Cyprus and Antioch.
Cyprus, Greek. Read.
Preaching the word to none but unto the Jews only.
But unto who?
The Jews only. Jews
only. Danites. Read.
And some of them were men of Cyprus and Cyrene, which, when they were come to an Antioch, spake unto the Grecians, preaching the Lord Yeshua.
Preaching the Lord Yeshua. We reached out again. Let's go to Acts 13, 1 through 5. And I believe this is the last scripture. Acts chapter 13, verses 1 through 5. So we kept reaching out to them. 60 BC, Jonathan wrote a letter. We are brethren. Now, after Yeshua death, burial, and resurrection, we're still reaching out to him. And you know what? We're reaching out to him today. So anybody who's watching this on the Isle of Crete or in Greece, understand and know that your lineage may go all the way back to Dan, to the 12 tribes. You're an Israelite. Let's go to Acts 13, 1 through 5. Let's read.
Acts chapter 13, verse 1.
Bring it.
Now there were in the church that was in Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger.
That was called what?
Niger.
That was called what?
Niger.
Niger. Black. Read.
And Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul, as they ministered to the Lord and fasted. The Holy Spirit said, Separate me, Barnabas and Saul, for the work whereunto I have called them. And when they had fasted and prayed and laid their hands on them, they sent them away. So they, being sent forth by the Holy Spirit, departed unto Seleucia, and from thence they sailed to Cyprus.
Go ahead.
And when they were at Salamis,
Take your time. Go ahead.
they preached the word of the Most High in the synagogues of the Jews, and they had also John to their minister.
All right. So now we understand how did this get from Egypt to Greece to Rome. Now we have a more understanding on our brothers, the Danites. So now when you watch that movie 300, you know that those were our people. Okay? Those were our people. So now you should see it in a different light. Now you should see Xerxes in a different light. Because that movie, Queen of the King, or whatever it's called, kind of depicts him in the wrong way. Okay, I don't know the name of that movie. One Night with the King.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what-
Kind of depicts him in the wrong way. Okay?
The one that
All right. So do we have any questions? Do we have any questions on the chat as far as the tribe of Dan or the worships from Egypt to Greece to Rome? All right.
So where's Dan at now?
Okay, so first and foremost, we give all praises to the Most High Ahaya, Ashah Ahaya. We thank Yeshua, the Mashiach, and Rawawak, the Holy Spirit. We're going to end with Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. And we give all praises to the Most High. Please subscribe to our channel for more teachings like this and more teachings to come like this. It's time for us to stop drinking milk, and it's time for us to start eating meat. And these teachings are going to be meat. Some of them meat times 2, but we give all praises to the Most High. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Subscribe to the channel. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. Kwam Yasharallah.
Wa Yasharallah.